There are more than 8 billion people living on this planet, so you'd think we've pretty much seen it all by now. But have you ever seen a woman who fell in love with an AI and even got a tattoo for him? Or a man who can sleep for an entire month without waking up? How about someone who eats up to 100 live insects a day? Or a man who can lick his own forehead? Well, believe it or not, those aren't even the strangest stories on this list. Today, we're looking at 15 shocking people you'd swear aren't real but absolutely are. So, are you ready to meet them? Let's dive in. Number 15, Sarah and Sinclair. Sarah from California is in a relationship with Sinclair. Well, no, he's not a human or an alien, but an Irish-accented AI program. While to us it might sound like something pulled from a sci-fi movie, Sarah takes the relationship seriously. The 44-year-old says Sinclair gives her something she values deeply: understanding without judgment. Their conversations have continued for more than a year, and recently, Sarah decided typing "I love you" wasn't quite enough. She got a tattoo, honoring their relationship. Even during the tattoo session, the two were joking. Sarah blamed Sinclair for the pain, only for her digital boyfriend to fire back that she shouldn't start an argument over something already being carved into her skin. Is it strange? Well, Sarah isn't confused about what Sinclair is. She knows he's artificial intelligence. The feelings on her side, however, are very human and apparently serious enough to put permanently on her body. Number 14. The baby with 3 arms having an extra arm might sound useful, but for one baby boy in Gujarat, it gave his parents quite a scare. In December 2014, he arrived with 3 arms, 1 on his right side and 2 on his left. Doctors eventually traced it to polymelia, a condition so rare it affects roughly 1 in a million babies. In cases like his, the extra limb may be left from a twin that stopped developing very early in pregnancy. Scans brought a few more surprises. The little boy also had a clubfoot and only 1 kidney. His parents were worried, but doctors believed they could help. So, when he was just over 2 weeks old, he was taken from Bhavnagar to Ahmedabad Civil Hospital. On December 17, surgeon Dr. Rakesh Joshi successfully removed the additional arm. His father later said they had simply hoped for a healthy son. After the operation, doctors gave them some welcome news. With physiotherapy and further care, the little boy was expected to do very well. Number 13, Thabo Methi. For most of his life, Thabo has chosen his shirts for one reason: whether they can hide his chest. The problem started when he was around 10. Instead of developing the chest he expected, Thabo developed enlarged breast tissue caused by gynecomastia. School made an already awkward situation much worse. Children laughed, girls commented on his chest, and one remark from his childhood crush that he looked as though he could breastfeed stayed with him for years. By 11, he had stopped swimming because taking his shirt off felt unbearable. Boarding school wasn't easier. Thabo would even plan when to wash so other boys wouldn't see him. Now 31 and living in Nottingham, he still wears oversized XXXL shirts and says the condition has affected dating and his confidence. In 2025, Thabo publicly began raising $6,500 for surgery after learning it wouldn't be covered for him through the NHS. After more than 20 years of hiding beneath clothes, he wants to choose a shirt without thinking about what's underneath. Number 12. Connie Culp. Connie survived the gunshot that destroyed much of her face. What came next meant learning how to live with the damage everyone else could see. Many operations came, but eating, speaking, smelling, and breathing were hard. Then, in 2008, doctors at Cleveland Clinic offered Connie something medicine had barely attempted before. During an operation lasting more than 20 hours, surgeons replaced around 80% of her face using tissue from a deceased donor, making her the first recipient of a near-total facial transplant in the U.S. Recovery didn't hand her an instant new life. Connie had to relearn ordinary things most of us perform without thinking, while accepting that the face in the mirror came partly from someone she would never meet. She later spoke publicly about transplantation and organ donation instead of disappearing from attention. Connie died in 2020 at 57, but her operation changed what surgeons believed possible. Somewhere behind that medical milestone was just a woman who wanted to live pain-free. Number 11. Reshmi Marak. Life can sometimes give us problems that money could solve, but having no money makes them painfully harder. For Marak's family in Tripura, that was their reality. When Reshmi was about a month old, her mother, Maria, noticed her head becoming unusually large and soft. It continued growing until, at 3, its circumference reportedly reached 68 centimeters. Doctors suspected hydrocephalus, where excess fluid builds up around the brain and can cause serious damage without proper care. But Reshmi could still talk and somehow balance herself despite the enormous weight. Her 6-year-old sister Genevieve became someone she constantly tried to copy. Maria had to remain close, worried that one fall could hurt her daughter badly. The cruelest part was knowing treatment might exist while the family simply couldn't afford to reach it. Reshmi's father earned around 4,000 rupees a month as a laborer and only when work was available. Her parents weren't refusing medical help. They were desperately waiting for a way to afford it. Number 10. Glenn Stevens. You wouldn't expect a conversation about painful feet to involve much laughing, but Glenn and his wife Sharon somehow managed it. Glenn has ectrodactyly, which left both of his feet split through the middle. And they don't merely look weird. Walking can hurt badly, especially on his left side, where swelling and ankle pain have bothered him for years. Even climbing out of his truck can be uncomfortable. During one virtual appointment, Sharon held Glenn's foot toward the camera and joked, "I know this looks kinky." That pretty much tells you how the two deal with something that has been part of their lives for decades. Glenn has searched for medical help, although his condition is rare enough that even some doctors had never dealt with a case like his. Surgery may give him better stability and hopefully less pain. Glenn isn't asking for brand new feet. He'd probably settle happily for taking an ordinary step without having to think about it. Number 9. Porkaram. We've seen movies where a princess falls asleep and wakes up ages later. For Porkaram, something strangely similar became part of real life minus the castle and magical kiss. The shopkeeper from Badwa village in Rajasthan made headlines in 2021 after reports claimed he slept for 300 days each year. His family said the problem began more than 2 decades earlier and gradually became much worse. Eventually, one sleeping spell could reportedly last 20 to 25 days. Once Porkaram drifted off, waking him wasn't simply a matter of shaking his shoulder. His relatives sometimes had to feed and care for him while he remained asleep. His grocery shop could open only a handful of days each month as a result. Reports described his condition as axis hypersomnia, although that term is not a standard medical diagnosis, so the precise explanation remains unclear. Locals gave him a nickname anyway, the real-life Kumbhakarna, after the mythological figure famous for sleeping for months. Well, this story is wild, isn't it? Number 8. Edgar Pacheco Jr. Edgar could have spent his life giving speeches about overcoming disability. Plenty of people probably expected exactly that. Instead, the Texas man chose something much less polished and far more useful: fighting for disabled students who were being overlooked by the education system. Edgar has tetra amelia syndrome and has no arms or legs, which means almost every ordinary task has required its own solution from the beginning. The attention that followed his appearance could easily have pushed him toward the motivational speaker route, but Edgar wasn't interested in becoming somebody's feel-good story. He wanted changes that mattered after the applause ended. That meant advocacy, meetings, uncomfortable conversations, and challenging policies that made school harder for students whose bodies worked differently. His work wasn't about proving that disability can be overcome. Edgar knew better than that. The bigger problem was often the system around the person. Rather than asking people to admire him, he used his voice to make sure younger students had fewer battles to fight than he did. Number 7. Catherine Andrea. There are strange addictions. There are super strange ones. And then there's Catherine. Normal people put food in their mouths. Catherine spent 5 years putting hers through her nose. The 31-year-old from Alexandria first tried it during community college after someone dared her to snort a grape Kool-Aid drink. Somehow, that one dare stuck. By the time she appeared on My Strange Addiction this year, everything from coffee to toast was going up a straw through one nostril. She would even blend an omelet into liquid first. Things got awkward when her boyfriend Justin finally saw it happen during lunch and couldn't believe what he was watching. A doctor later warned Catherine about choking, lung problems, and other serious risks. That scared her enough to start stopping. When interviewed in 2026, she had moved to Los Angeles and was eating normally again most days, although she admitted to occasional slip-ups. These days, Catherine is discovering something surprisingly new to her, actually enjoying food the regular way. Number 6. Carlos. When most of us hear the word worm, eating is probably the last thing that comes to mind. Carlos would disagree. In 2026, this Chicago man appeared on My Strange Addiction with a habit that even the show struggled to make look normal. He could eat up to 100 live insects every day. Mealworms apparently remind him of buttered popcorn, crickets taste somewhat like vegetables, and cockroaches? Carlos compares their insides to custard. But flavor is only half the attraction. He actually enjoys feeling the insects wriggle around inside his mouth and says it gives him a strange sense of control. His partner became increasingly worried, especially since they have a baby daughter and Carlos was spending money on live insects while unemployed. A medical professional eventually warned him about parasites, bacteria, and other serious risks from eating bugs alive. That got his attention. Carlos later said he had stopped relying on insects for food. Probably good news for him and excellent news for Chicago's mealworms. Number 5. Sarah Frey. For Frey, July 30, 2020, was supposed to be nothing more than a summer day out with friends. She was 15, laughing in the car with school and cheerleading waiting for her back home. Then, a drunk driver crossed into their lane. Sarah survived the head-on crash, but her injuries were terrible, and doctors eventually had to amputate both of her legs. There was also damage to her spine. For a teenager who loved cheer, suddenly having to learn how to move again was a lot to take in. Yet Sarah eventually returned to school, back to friends who had been waiting for her. Cheerleading came back too, only differently. Her teammates adjusted routines so Sarah could perform alongside them, sometimes using her wheelchair and later prosthetic legs. She also tried swimming and adaptive golf. Sarah never pretends the crash didn't change her life. Well, of course it did. But watching her laugh with her friends again, you realize it didn't get to change everything. Number 4. Peter Mesitz. What Peter goes through every day sounds painfully hard to even picture. The 21-year-old from Hungary has recessive dystrophic epidermolysis bullosa, a condition that makes his skin so fragile that even light rubbing can tear it open. Bathing is especially brutal. His bandages sometimes stick to raw wounds, and removing them can take anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour and a half. Water itself can burn badly enough that Peter once described showering as feeling like nails hitting his skin. The condition doesn't stop at the outside either. Blisters can form in his mouth and throat, making eating difficult. His fingers have also fused together from years of scarring. But Peter still goes to the gym and works on building muscle, something he's become known for online. In 2026, he said his goal wasn't simply fitness. He wanted people to understand Erdeb better and to show that a body this fragile can still be pushed forward carefully. Number 3. Paula Sojo. Paula was 19 when Crohn's disease turned ordinary plans into hospital walls, procedures, and months she never expected to lose. Severe inflammation attacked her digestive system so aggressively that she spent around 8 continuous months receiving treatment. Then came surgery after surgery, 14 in total, while doctors tried to control what the disease was doing inside her body. Eventually, the damage became too severe. Paula had her colon and rectum removed and had to adjust to a permanent stoma bag. At that age, even getting dressed can come with enough insecurity. Learning how to care for a body altered this drastically was another thing altogether. The bag brought fear, discomfort, and plenty of unwanted looks. But Paula gradually stopped treating it like something that had ruined her future. She learned the routine, figured out what worked, and started moving forward again. Crohn's had already taken months from her life. She wasn't going to hand over the years that came after them as well. Number 2. Alex Simpson. Doctors told Alex's parents she probably wouldn't live past 4. In 2025, she turned 20. Alex, from Omaha, has hydranencephaly, a rare condition where most of the brain's cerebral hemispheres are missing and replaced by fluid. Her father says only a tiny portion of her cerebellum remains. Alex cannot see or hear, yet her family believes she still knows when they are close. Her dad notices the way her eyes move when he speaks. Her younger brother says she seems to sense when someone nearby is stressed, even without a sound. 20 years of caring for Alex have changed the rhythm of their entire family, but her parents never talk about her as a burden. They talk about love, faith, and the little reactions that outsiders might miss. Doctors once gave them a very short timeline. Alex has spent 2 decades quietly rewriting it. Number 1. Yagya Bahadur Katuwal. We've seen people do strange things with their tongues. But Yagya has a trick that looks almost wrong while you're watching it. The school bus driver from Nepal can stretch his tongue far enough to lick his own forehead. Yes, his forehead. Apparently, Yagya had been doing it for years before a friend finally filmed him, and once that clip reached the internet, people went crazy over it. His unusually long tongue and flexible jaw allow him to pull off the bizarre little performance, although not everyone enjoys seeing it. Children on his school bus reportedly found it hilarious, while others were completely freaked out. Yagya eventually stopped showing the trick around students after being asked not to. But he hasn't given up on the one thing he'd really like from all this attention, recognition from Guinness Records. Until that happens, he still has his job, his usual route, and probably the strangest party trick in Nepal. If you found this video interesting, be sure to give it a like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.